If there's one thing more dangerous than a woman with a secret, it's a man with a printer and unlimited Wi-Fi. People always say, trust your gut, but no one tells you what to do when your gut drops faster than your credit score during a divorce. I didn't find lipstick on a collar or hear moaning through the vents. No, I found a half-written PDA post about how to keep your marriage spicy, saved in her drafts. The punchline? She was giving me advice on fidelity while riding some guy named Tyler like a Peloton bike behind my back. It started on a Monday. That kind of Monday where your coffee machine dies, the dog pukes on your laptop bag, and somehow the bananas you just bought are already rotting like your trust in humanity. She was running late for her yoga class, third time this week, and in her rush, she left her phone charging in the kitchen, which is odd because she treats that thing like it's fused to her hand. Out of instinct or maybe divine spite, I tapped the screen. A WhatsApp message popped up. Just 2 words, last night smiling face with orange dot. My stomach didn't drop. It folded neatly into a little origami swan of pure dread. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I took the phone, placed it back exactly where it was, and smiled at the thought of how little she knew about the silent reckoning she just triggered. She kissed me goodbye, said she'd be back after grabbing smoothies with the girls. Smoothies? Huh? Must be why her yoga mat smelled like expensive cologne and betrayal. Now here's the thing. My wife, Amanda, is something of a suburban celebrity. She's got this image locked down. Perfect mom, Pinterest queen, running a Facebook mom group with over 6,000 members. They worship her. They comment things like #Mongols under her posts where she shares diaper hacks and relationship tips like she's the Dalai Lama and Lululemon. These women don't just trust her, they model their lives after her. So when I saw that message, I didn't rage. I strategized. What better way to dismantle a false idol than right in the temple where she preaches? But I didn't act immediately. That's where most men fail. They swing too early, like fools. Me? I studied her routines like I was prepping for a final exam in Human Depravity 101. Over the next 2 weeks, I mirrored her, played dumb, kissed her forehead, laughed at her dumb reels. Meanwhile, I cloned her phone, downloaded chats, scrolled through her yoga group messages, where Tyler wasn't just a fling, he was an escape plan. I wish you were the father of my kids, she'd written to him. Imagine reading that while feeding the actual children. And then there were the videos. Oh, the videos. Nothing cinematic, just grainy front camera shots of her telling him she couldn't wait to escape this prison. I guess I was the warden. So I made a burner Facebook profile. Female. Used stock photos and mom buzzwords like self-care and clean eating. Got accepted into the group after 2 days of commenting on posts about toddler tantrums and gluten-free lunchboxes. From there, I spent a week building rapport, dropping helpful tips, fake crying about sleep deprivation, the whole act. Meanwhile, I was collecting every post Amanda had ever made about marital strength and emotional boundaries, juxtaposing them with screenshots of her telling Tyler, I wish I never met him. I crafted a post so sweet and sincere it could give you a cavity. Titled it, When the Strongest Moms Break, a Cautionary Tale. It started as a personal story, a confession of sorts, about discovering betrayal in someone I trusted. Then, I dropped the hammer. Blurred photos of Amanda with Tyler, clearly not her husband. A cropped screenshot of her telling him, I fake it every time, even during our anniversary. I didn't name her outright. Didn't have to. Her writing style, her tone, her signature emojis, every woman in that group knew exactly who it was. By the next morning, it had over 800 comments. Wait, is this Amanda? OMG, no way. She literally gave me marriage advice last week. I feel sick. I looked up to her. And then, like wolves circling a wounded deer, they turned. The moderator, who Amanda used to babysit for, removed her from the group. Posts started popping up with titles like, Who Else Feels Betrayed by Amanda, and Never Trust a Perfect Mom Face. She didn't say anything to me that night. Just came home quiet, eyes red, phone clutched like a ticking bomb. I watched her scroll, watched the panic settle into her bones as her digital kingdom crumbled. No yelling, no confrontation. I simply asked, smoothies. She nodded like a child caught lying. I almost felt bad. Almost. But then I remembered the text that started it all, last night smiling face with orange dot. And I realized, last night was hers. Every night after? Mine. There was a time when I thought we had it all figured out. Early morning routines, school drop-offs, coffee runs where she'd lean over and steal sips from my cup, her eyes still soft with sleep, her hair tied in that careless bun I used to pretend I hated but secretly loved. Amanda used to laugh with her whole body. She'd dance in the kitchen with the kids to old Taylor Swift songs, wearing my hoodie and no makeup, and I'd think, yeah, this is it. This is happiness. I never doubted her. Not once. I made the money, kept the house fixed, handled the boring crap like insurance and taxes, so she could chase whatever version of passion she was into that month. Blogging, baking, mom influencer life, bullet journaling. Whatever it was, I supported it, because I believed in her even more than she believed in herself. But somewhere between the sourdough obsession and the essential oils phase, something shifted. She started changing her passwords, said it was for online security. Her phone, which used to live wherever it fell, suddenly became surgically attached to her. She stopped sharing memes with me at night, stopped tagging me in her motivational posts. I wasn't part of the narrative anymore. She began using words like boundaries and emotional energy. One night, I asked if she wanted to rewatch the show we used to binge together, and she told me she didn't want to numb out with screen time anymore. She said she was trying to be more intentional with her evenings. So instead of curling up beside me, she sat at the kitchen table journaling with a lavender candle and headphones in, completely checked out, even though we were in the same house. I chalked it up to a phase. We all go through phases, right? That's what I told myself. But then she started locking the bathroom door during showers, which she never used to. She always used to invite me in, smirking, asking me to hand her a towel, even though we both knew it was a ploy to get me naked and in there with her. Now, door shut, water on for too long, and her coming out in new lingerie I'd never seen before and definitely hadn't taken off of her. Her explanations were all fluff. I'm finding myself again. I need space to grow. I'm reconnecting with who I was before I was a mom. But it felt less like she was growing and more like she was pruning me out. I found a receipt in the trash for a wine tasting she never mentioned, 2 towns over, on a Tuesday afternoon when she said she was at therapy. I didn't ask. I told myself maybe she needed a break. Maybe therapy was just near the vineyard. Maybe she met a friend. I found a new playlist on her Spotify, nothing like the music she used to like. Moody indie crap and love songs that sounded like they were written by people who just discovered orgasms and betrayal in the same week. I listened to a few while I was fixing the kitchen cabinet. One song was literally called The Other Man. I laughed. A hollow, sharp laugh that echoed too hard in the silence. I noticed her wardrobe changing, too. Less cozy mom clothes, more crop tops and tight yoga pants with labels like Savage and Wild Thing. She bought herself a new perfume. Expensive, bold, nothing like her usual soft floral scents. And she started wearing it at night, even when she said she was just running to Target. I offered to go with her once. She paused too long before saying no, smiling like a politician. Then there was her Instagram. She'd always post daily, kid stuff, recipes, her little morning inspiration quotes. Then suddenly her account went private. When I asked, she said she was getting weird followers and wanted to be more intentional with her audience. The same night, I noticed she started texting in another room. She used to sit on the couch and giggle, showing me dumb memes. Now the phone never faced up. Her laugh never reached her eyes anymore. It was all teeth and posture. One day, I saw her car parked at the far end of the park near a wooded trail while I was driving home from work early. She told me she was at Costco. Again, I didn't say anything. I wanted to believe. That was the scariest part. I still wanted to believe. You can know the truth and still beg for a lie that fits the life you built. She was still cooking dinner, still kissing the kids goodnight, still calling me babe when she needed help with the Wi-Fi. But the soul of it was gone. Her touch was polite. Her kisses timed. Her stories rehearsed. One night she stood in the kitchen, staring out the window, and said, "Do you ever feel like you're meant for more than this?" And I looked at her, thinking of the life we had, the years we built, the quiet sacrifices, and I said, "No, I feel like this is exactly what I was meant for." She just nodded, like she didn't hear me at all, like she was already somewhere else. It was a Thursday. Not that the day of the week mattered, but I remember it because Thursdays were her deep reset days, her words, not mine, where she'd go off the grid for a few hours to declutter her mind, usually with a smoothie, a journal, and some overpriced incense sticks from that spiritualist shop downtown. She left in her favorite leggings, hair tied high, earbuds in, gave me a kiss that barely grazed my cheek. I didn't question it. I'd stopped asking questions weeks ago. But that day, I was off work early. Unexpected server crash meant the office was a ghost town by 2 p.m. So I got home, fed the dog, and realized she left her iPad on the coffee table, still on, still unlocked. Now, normally, that wouldn't mean anything. Amanda's iPad was basically a glorified Pinterest board. But something caught my eye. The screen was glowing with a paused FaceTime window. Tyler. His name stared at me, frozen mid-laugh, that fake charming smirk that made my hands itch. Underneath, a chat window was still open. Last night was insane, he typed. You taste like strawberries. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I read it again. Then I read the rest. And it was all there, their entire thread like a digital crime scene. Real plans. I don't think he suspects anything, she'd written. I'm thinking of telling him I want to separate, but let's not rush it. I want everything to look natural. Natural. Like the way she'd been casually erasing me from her life one choreographed smile at a time. Wasn't even the nude she sent him while the kids were at school. It was a line. Just one line. He's too soft to do anything. He'd never leave me. He needs me. That was the moment the last piece inside me snapped. Not with rage. Not with violence. No, it was quieter than that. A full system shutdown, followed by a new operating mode. Cold, focused, ruthless. I stared at the screen for maybe 2 minutes, then turned it off and placed the iPad back exactly where it had been, angle and all. I didn't say a word when she came home. She kissed me on the cheek again. Said, God, I feel so centered today, while tossing her keys into the bowl. I smiled back. Asked her if she wanted Thai for dinner. She said yes. We watched some Netflix. She even fell asleep on the couch with her head on my shoulder. I didn't move. I just stared at the black screen after the credits rolled, hearing her breathing slow, smelling that expensive new perfume she'd never worn for me, and counting the seconds between each inhale. I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't angry. I was calculating. Every "I love you" she ever said rewrote itself in my head like a bad script. Every laugh, every moment I thought was real, it all became data. Useless information to be stored, then destroyed. I knew then that I wouldn't confront her. Not yet. That would be too easy. Too fast. She thought I needed her. She thought I'd stay. But I just shifted into a new gear. I didn't want justice. I wanted her life to burn. Quietly. Elegantly. From the inside out. The kind of ruin that doesn't just break a woman, it rewrites how she sees herself. And the best part? She wouldn't see it coming. Because in her mind, I was still the fool who needed her. Still the soft man who bought her smoothies and fixed her car and kissed her forehead like she was some fragile little goddess. But now I was something else. Something sharper. And every move she made from that day forward only helped me sharpen the blade. She had no idea that I'd already opened the first trap the night I saw that message from Tyler. While she slept beside me, warm and soft and false, I stared at the ceiling and mentally mapped my steps like I was drafting blueprints for a demolition. First, I started small. The easy wins. I synced our joint bank account to a private alert system I set up through an old business account I'd never closed. Every time a charge was made, I got a ping. And that's when I noticed the Red Feather Bistro twice in 1 week. We'd never been. She said she was at a pottery class. I smiled. Let it go. But the next Thursday, I made a reservation for one at the same place under a fake name. Showed up, didn't eat, just sat at the bar and watched. At 7:43 p.m., Amanda walked in wearing a dress I hadn't seen in 2 years, the one she used to save for anniversaries. She wasn't alone. Tyler was with her. They didn't hold hands. They didn't kiss. They weren't that stupid. But their body language sang with familiarity. She laughed at his jokes like she hadn't laughed with me in months. She tilted her head in that way she used to when I was the one telling stories. I watched, silent, sipping whiskey I didn't taste. Then I left, unseen, letting the lie grow unchecked. The next day, I told her my work hours had shifted, that I'd be home late for a while. She nodded, didn't even ask why. That was my second win. She wasn't paying attention to me anymore. I had become part of the furniture, just another fixture in her curated world. I used that to my advantage. I installed a voice-activated recorder under the passenger seat of her car, tiny, hidden, triggered only when someone spoke above a whisper. Every 3 days, I collected the data, filtered it through a transcriber, and read her life like a script. They talked about me sometimes. Tyler called me the ghost. She laughed and said I still did the dishes, so it wasn't a total loss. I laughed, too, quietly, while I updated my spreadsheet of names, dates, times, receipts. I followed her best friend, Natalie, on a burner Instagram account. Made it look like a fellow mom influencer. She accepted without question. Her stories were careless. Her geotags were even worse. One showed them both at a wine and healing event at a spa retreat the same weekend. Amanda said she was attending a trauma workshop solo. I called the retreat's reception desk that night and asked, in a soft, worried voice, if Amanda had checked in. I was her husband, and she wasn't answering her phone. The woman on the line apologized. No one by that name had a reservation. I thanked her, told her I'd call back. I didn't need to. I was building something much bigger than a confrontation. I started asking her casual questions that I already knew the answers to. How was your journaling today? Did Natalie end up joining you? You still love that red feather place, huh? Each time, she answered too quickly, too smoothly. And I saw the panic flicker behind her eyes, not because she suspected anything, but because she knew she was lying and had gotten too comfortable doing it. I'd offer to do her laundry, and she'd tense. I'd act like I forgot the password to the Netflix account, and she'd scramble to type it in first, protecting the device like it was sacred. I'd accidentally leave my phone unlocked near her, with a fake text conversation opened, one that mimicked the exact tone of hers with Tyler, but from a woman named Rachel. I wanted to see how she reacted. She saw it. I know she did. Her entire body froze for a split second. Then she laughed, nervously, and said nothing. That was all I needed. She was projecting. If she thought I might be cheating too, then she'd subconsciously start covering her tracks harder. I wanted that. I wanted her nervous. Meanwhile, I created a detailed calendar of her excuses. Therapy, yoga, personal growth workshops, girl dinners. I highlighted every overlap, cross-referenced every bank charge, every GPS pin I quietly installed in her car's trunk liner, every inconsistency in her stories. She once told me she was at her sister's. Her sister posted a birthday dinner that night. Amanda wasn't in a single photo. I printed that. Filed it. Everything was cataloged. I even called her office once, using a fake voice and a made-up name, asking for her to confirm an order. They told me she hadn't been in the office for 3 days due to a personal leave of absence. Meanwhile, she'd been coming home every night talking about meetings, deadlines, her exhausting boss. I didn't confront her. I kissed her forehead and said she was amazing for juggling so much. She cried. I wiped her tears. She had no idea she was being hunted by a man who had already pierced her armor. I wasn't playing husband anymore. I was playing predator. The kind that doesn't chase. The kind that waits. Because the more lies she spun, the deeper she wove the noose I'd soon tighten around her perfect little throat. She thought it was a surprise dinner for our anniversary, 10 years to the day, and I made sure it felt like a celebration. The reservation was at her favorite rooftop restaurant, the one with the skyline view she used to post selfies from when we were still happy, or at least pretending well enough. I wore the same shirt I wore the night I proposed, the one she said made me look like someone who could be trusted. She wore red, the same shade she wore the night she first told me she loved me. The irony wasn't lost on me. We were seated by the edge, candlelight between us, a chilled bottle of her favorite wine already waiting. She smiled like she'd won. She held my hand across the table and said she was so grateful for everything we'd built. I nodded. Let her talk. Let her believe this was still her story. Then, 5 minutes in, the screen flickered to life behind her, part of the restaurant's digital wall that usually cycled through scenic photos of cityscapes and wine pairings. But tonight, I'd paid for 5 minutes of something special. First came a still image, Amanda and Tyler at the park, their bodies too close, her hand resting gently on his thigh. Then another, outside the Red Feather Bistro, his hand at the small of her back. Then a video inside his car, parked just around the corner from our house, the audio faint but unmistakable. Her voice, breathy, laughing. If he ever finds out, I'll just cry. He always believes my tears. She didn't turn around immediately. She froze, eyes locked on mine, as if hoping I hadn't seen it. Hoping maybe, just maybe, it wasn't real. Then she looked, slowly, like peeling off a bandage. Her smile vanished. Her hand slid off mine, and the first words out of her mouth were textbook. It's not what you think. I tilted my head, watching her. Not angry, not broken, just observing a liar in the final stage of performance. We were just talking. That's from months ago, she stammered. Her face flushed, hands trembling as she reached for her purse like she might find her dignity inside. You've been distant. I didn't know how to talk to you. I tried. God, I tried. But you were always in your own world. I needed someone who saw me. Justification. Phase 2. As if betrayal is just a miscommunication. I didn't speak. I just poured her another glass of wine and slid it toward her. She didn't drink it. Her eyes were darting now, looking for exits, for excuses, for any hole in the narrative she could crawl into and hide. You don't even touch me anymore. You stopped looking at me like I mattered. What was I supposed to do? Blame. Classic. The monster she created suddenly became the reason she strayed. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table, and said, "Do you know the difference between a mistake and a decision?" She opened her mouth, but stopped. A mistake is tripping over a curb. A decision is meeting someone in secret for 6 months while lying to your children about where you are. She flinched like I'd slapped her, but my voice was calm. Measured. Not a single curse. Just truth, delivered like cold steel. You planned this. You scheduled it between spin classes and PDA meetings. You covered your tracks with therapist receipts and Instagram filters. This wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a campaign. Her jaw tightened. Her expression twisted into something ugly. "You're pathetic," she spat. "Spying on me? Setting up some twisted gotcha moment? Do you think this makes you look strong?" Mocking confidence, the last defense of the guilty. I smiled. Not wide. Not cruel. Just enough to let her know she'd already lost. "No," I said. "It makes you look like exactly what you are, in front of everyone who believed you were anything better." She didn't realize 2 of her mom group friends were dining 2 tables over. They'd seen the screen. They were whispering now. One of them pulled out her phone. Amanda's eyes darted over and locked on them. That's when the fear finally broke through. The 5th phase. Her confidence crumbled in real time, piece by piece. "Please," she said, voice cracking. "Can we just go somewhere private and talk about this?" I shook my head slowly. Privacy is something you lost when you started living a double life. You don't get to choose silence now. The waiter approached, nervous, probably sensing the tension slicing through the air. I asked for the check. Amanda sat motionless, staring at the tablecloth like it might swallow her. She reached for my hand again, as if this was still salvageable, as if I might somehow let it go, pretend this was just a bump. But I didn't move. I let her hand hover in the space between us, shaking, a relic of a woman who used to matter. I didn't leave yet. I just sat there, watching her drown in the quiet. Watching the moment she realized she hadn't just lost a husband. She'd lost the mask she wore for everyone else. She followed me home like a storm you think has passed, but turns around to destroy what's left, slamming the car door before I even turned off the engine, heels clicking behind me as I walked inside without a word. "So that's it," she hissed, barely breathing. "You just humiliate me in public and walk away like some righteous martyr?" I didn't answer. I went to the sink and poured a glass of water, calm, deliberate. She ripped off her coat, tossed her purse on the counter like that would shake something loose. "You smug son of a bitch," she snapped. "You think you're above this? You think you're innocent? You smothered me. You drained me. You made me feel like nothing." I took a slow sip, stared at her. "Then you should have left." That one stopped her for half a second. Her face twitched, and then it darkened. I tried, but every time I thought about it, you were there with your quiet eyes and your pathetic loyalty, making me feel guilty for needing more. Her voice cracked, but not from sadness, just pressure, from a mind unraveling at the seams. "You want to know the truth?" she barked. "You were boring. Predictable. Every day felt like a rerun. I wanted passion. Fire. You gave me spreadsheets and grocery lists. I didn't flinch, just nodded once. And yet, you lied to keep all of it." Her mouth opened, closed. "No," she said, stepping forward, voice trembling now. "No, I stayed for the kids. I stayed because I felt bad for you. Because I thought maybe you'd change." I leaned against the counter, arms crossed, my tone flat. "You stayed because you liked the image. You liked playing the perfect wife with a safety net under your lies. You never planned to leave. You just wanted both." She laughed then, a sharp, humorless sound that bounced off the kitchen walls. "You think you're some kind of saint? You think being quiet makes you powerful?" I shrugged. It made me patient. That's what power actually is. She blinked rapidly, mascara smudging. "God, you're such a cold bastard." I walked past her, unbothered, and said without turning around, "You're just mad the bastard stopped caring." That hit her harder than anything else I'd said. I heard her stagger back, bumping into the kitchen stool, her breath catching in her throat like she finally understood this wasn't an argument. This was a verdict. You can't just stop feeling, she said, voice small, desperate. You don't just shut it off. I paused at the base of the stairs. You did. Her hands were shaking now, clutching the counter for balance. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, she whispered. You weren't supposed to know. I turned, looked her straight in the eyes. I know everything. And I still don't care. She took a step toward me like she wanted to touch me, stop the bleeding she finally realized she'd caused in herself. You don't mean that, she said, but her voice was hollow now. Weak. You loved me. I did, I said. But you taught me how to stop. She broke then. Not loudly. Not with sobs. But in that silent way people fall apart when there's no audience left to lie to. She slumped against the counter, eyes wide, breathing shallow, like the room had lost its oxygen. What are you going to do? She asked. To me. I tilted my head slightly. Whatever hurts you most. You're bluffing, she whispered. You're not like that. I walked up the stairs, slowly, deliberately, letting each step echo behind me. You don't know me anymore, I said. You traded me in for a fantasy. Now you get to live in a nightmare. She didn't follow. She just stood there, stunned, shattered, realizing too late that the man she thought she broke had been remade into something colder, stronger, and far more dangerous than she ever imagined. And that the silence she always mocked had become the sound of her world collapsing. The first move was silence. True, deafening silence. No fights, no discussions, no announcements. Just cold detachment as I moved through our shared space like a man who no longer saw it as his home, only as a chessboard. I let her keep thinking I was stunned, nursing wounds, maybe even breaking under the weight of it all. She assumed time was on her side, that I'd eventually try to fix what she'd burned. But while she smirked behind her fake apologies and pitiful tears, I was already weeks into execution. I started with the bank accounts. I had already created a separate one under my name, using the same financial institution to avoid detection. One afternoon, while she was at yoga, I removed half the joint funds, cleanly, legally, transferred my paycheck to the new account. Then I called the credit card company and canceled all but one of our shared cards, the one I knew she had on her. I let it sit for 3 days, then flagged it for suspicious activity and had it frozen. I wanted her to feel the pinch first, at the gas station, at the grocery store, right when she needed it most. Then came the car. Technically, it was in my name. I waited until she had plans to meet him, saw it in her texts, and used our car's tracker to confirm she was parked outside his apartment. That night, I called in the repo order to have it towed to my friend's shop. When she called in a panic, I told her it must have been stolen. Call the cops, I said. File a report. She didn't. Because deep down, she knew I knew. I smiled. The next move was the apartment, specifically, her fallback plan. She had told Tyler she might move in with him once she got clear. So I called a real estate buddy of mine, and we faked a tenant interest inquiry at Tyler's building. Found out his lease was up for renewal and his landlord was considering a price increase due to noise complaints. That gave me enough time to pull together screenshots and chat logs of their plans, cropped to protect myself legally, of course. I printed them, sealed them in an unmarked envelope, and mailed them anonymously to Tyler's landlord. No threats. Just facts. Within a week, Tyler got notice he'd need to vacate by the end of the month. Amanda never saw that string unravel. Then came her work. She was still living her girl boss life on social media, posting filtered photos of planners and smoothie bowls with captions about manifesting peace and cutting out toxicity. So I logged into our shared cloud. She had synced it years ago, forgot about it, and I found voice memos she had recorded, talking trash about her boss, bragging about faking sick days to see Tyler, even one audio file where she joked, "They should be paying me not to show up." I burned those onto a flash drive, along with a few choice screenshots of her telling Tyler how dumb her coworkers were. I mailed it anonymously to her company's HR department, with a typed note. Just thought you should know who represents your brand. The fallout was quiet. No fireworks. Just a calendar update marked Amanda, suspended pending review. She didn't cry in front of me when she got the email. But she didn't sleep that night, either. I kept going. I pulled the utility bills from the drawer and shifted everything, power, water, internet, into my name. Then I scheduled disconnections. Gave her a week's notice. When she asked, I told her, just being efficient. We won't need this setup anymore. I watched her nod like she understood, but her eyes screamed panic. She had always assumed I'd be passive, hesitant, too kind to cut the cord. But I wasn't cutting the cord. I was strangling her safety net, one thread at a time. I sent a calm, polite email to her parents. Told them we were separating. Attached the evidence in a private drive link, password protected. I told them I wasn't angry, just tired. That I wanted them to see the truth before they got it secondhand. I ended it with, "Please don't reach out unless it's about the kids." Her father replied with one line, "I'm sorry. I had no idea." Her mother hasn't spoken to her since. I filed for divorce quietly, with full custody requested, citing emotional abandonment and infidelity. My lawyer was sharp, expensive, and ruthless. I made sure all documentation was watertight. She was served while getting her nails done. Called me 5 times. I didn't answer once. The final blow was subtle. I posted a picture on my personal page, me and the kids at a cabin, smiling, peaceful. The caption read, "Healing starts in silence." I didn't tag anyone. Didn't mention her. But mutual friends started asking questions. Her inbox filled with cold shoulders and quiet exits. The image she'd curated, perfect wife, wise mom, spiritual guide, dissolved like sugar in rain. And all the while, she never once saw it coming. She thought she had time. But time had always been mine. It happened at her sister's baby shower, because I knew she'd never see it coming. Amanda had planned it for weeks, made Pinterest boards, baked cupcakes, coordinated floral arrangements, and matching pastel outfits for the entire family. It was her stage, her chance to shine. And I let her. I showed up 15 minutes early, helped set up chairs, even brought a gift, wrapped perfectly, neutral, and polite. When she saw me, she looked surprised, confused, but quickly smiled, walking over with her practiced grace, and kissed my cheek like everything was fine. "Thanks for coming," she whispered, a little too rehearsed. "I know things are weird." I nodded. Wouldn't miss it. That was the last thing I said for 2 hours. I watched her float around the party, laughing too loudly, touching people's arms like she was still beloved. I watched her hug her parents, who gave her hollow smiles and stepped away quickly, eyes darting to me with something close to respect and pity. Her mother couldn't even finish a full sentence before excusing herself to the kitchen. Her father stood like stone, arms crossed, watching Amanda the way you might watch a stranger impersonating someone you once loved. Her sister, the guest of honor, avoided her entirely, speaking only when necessary and never making eye contact. Amanda noticed. I saw her glance around, her smile tightening, her jokes landing flat. She kept looking at me, waiting for something, anger, explanation, maybe just acknowledgement, but I gave her none. I just stood by the edge of the room, sipping lemonade, polite, invisible, dangerous. And then the slideshow started. She'd made it herself, photos of her sister's life, family moments, captions in soft fonts over acoustic music. But she didn't check the file before plugging in the USB, because I'd already swapped it. The music stayed. The opening photo remained. But the next one was Amanda, in Tyler's car, mid-laugh, her hand on his chest. Then another, her text messages, enlarged and censored. "You make me feel like I'm alive again. He's just dead weight." Then a video. Her voice, recorded from her car. "If I have to hear him talk about taxes again, I'm going to scream. Tyler actually touches me like I'm a woman. I fake it with my husband. Every single time." The room fell silent. Gasps. A plate dropped. Amanda leapt from her chair, ran toward the screen, fumbling with the remote, yelling, "That's not mine. Someone hacked. This isn't what." But her voice cracked. Her hands shook. And the more she spoke, the more obvious it became, it was her. Her sister stood, 6 months pregnant, and said quietly, "Get out." Amanda turned to her, face crumbling. "Jess, no, please, I didn't." He must have. Out. Her father stepped beside his daughter. Amanda looked around, but no one moved for her. No one defended her. Even her best friend, Natalie, was staring at me now, not with judgment, but something almost reverent. Amanda turned back to the crowd. "It was just texting," she lied, voice trembling. "It wasn't physical. We were just venting. You don't understand what I've been through." And then she saw him, Tyler, standing near the back, arms crossed, face pale. He hadn't known I sent him the same video earlier that morning, with a message, "You were just a warm-up. She's already planning her next exit." He looked at her with disgust, then turned and left without a word. That was the moment the mask cracked. She tried to laugh. "This is insane," she said, but her voice was too high. Her face twitched. "He's setting me up. He's trying to ruin me. I'm the mother of his children." No one spoke. Just silence. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring. She turned to me, desperate. Tell them. Tell them you manipulated all of this. I looked at her for the first time and said, I didn't need to. That was all. Nothing else. And her legs buckled. She dropped to the chair, face in her hands, sobbing, makeup streaking, shaking. She looked like a woman who had just realized the truth wasn't just out. It was undeniable, permanent, and no one was ever going to look at her the same again. I stood in the same place, silent, unmoved. Not out of cruelty. Out of principle. Because she needed to know that there would be no rage, no screaming, no fight. Just consequences. Just gravity pulling the lie down until it crushed her. And as she cried into her trembling hands, surrounded by the ashes of the reputation she worshipped, she looked up one last time. At me. And what she saw wasn't anger. It was freedom. That's what broke her. It happened at her parents' house, of all places, the place where we'd once carved turkeys and opened Christmas presents and smiled for fake family photos we both knew were hollow. Her mother had asked for a talk, hoping we could salvage something, anything, and I agreed only because I knew exactly how this would end. I arrived early, sat quietly in the living room while her father paced by the window, arms crossed, jaw clenched. Her mother brought in coffee no one drank. Then Amanda walked in like nothing had changed, like she still had some kind of leverage, like the mask she wore wasn't already cracked and bleeding. She wore that soft beige sweater she always chose when she wanted to look innocent, hair done, eyes wide. Can we just talk? She said, like she hadn't already detonated the lives of everyone in the room. I didn't answer. I waited. And then, like she was begging for it, she snapped. You don't get to act like the victim when you've been plotting against me for weeks. Her father's head turned sharply. He's plotting, he said, voice cold. He's reacting. Amanda whipped around, eyes wild. You're taking a side? After everything I've done for this family? Her mother stared at her like she was seeing her for the first time. What you've done, she said slowly, is destroy it. Amanda's voice rose, frantic. You don't understand. He wasn't there. He was cold, distant, obsessed with control. He made me feel invisible. I laughed, finally. A low, humorless sound that cut through the room. You mean the nights I stayed up with the kids while you were finding yourself? Or the weekends I cleaned up your mess while you were texting Tyler from our bed? That name landed like a grenade. Her eyes darted to her parents, both flinching. You have no right, she shouted. I gave you 10 years of my life. And I gave you loyalty you used as a doormat, I snapped. You used my silence as a shield, thinking I'd never speak. Now I'm speaking. Her sister stood in the doorway, arms folded, phone in hand. She'd been recording. Amanda saw it. Turn that off, she screamed. This is private. Not anymore, her sister said. Not after what you did. Amanda spun, eyes wild, cheeks flushed. You all love this, don't you? Watching me fall apart. You've always resented me. We trusted you, her mother said. And you made a mockery of all of us. And then Tyler walked in. Late. Dumb as ever, looking lost. What's going on? He asked. Amanda's face crumbled. Baby, they're twisting everything. He's manipulating them. Tyler held up a hand. I'm not your baby. We're done. Wait, what? She gasped. You said. I said a lot, he muttered, eyes flicking to me. But you didn't tell me there were recordings. Screenshots. You made me think he was abusive or distant. I didn't sign up to be your next lie. Amanda lunged toward him, grabbing his arm. You said you loved me. I said that before I found out you were planning to do this to me too. He yanked his arm free and walked out. The door slammed. Amanda stood there shaking, tears streaming, mascara trailing down her face like war paint on a clown. You think you're all so righteous, she snarled, voice hoarse. But you don't know what it's like to feel trapped in your own marriage. Trapped, I said, stepping forward. You weren't trapped. You were bored. And instead of fixing what we built, you chose to break it, secretly, selfishly, like a coward. She screamed, a primal, broken thing, and shoved the coffee table, sending mugs crashing to the floor. Her mother recoiled. Her father stepped in front of her mother like a shield. I stood my ground. This is who you really are, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Behind the quotes and the filtered photos. This, a woman who burns everything when she's not the center of attention. She shook her head violently. You're a monster, cold, heartless. How could you do this to me? I stared at her, eyes unblinking. I didn't do this to you. You did this to yourself. I just stopped protecting you from the consequences. She staggered back, hit the wall, slid down onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Her mother turned away. Her father walked out of the room. Her sister kept filming. I didn't move. I let the silence wrap around her like a noose. Let her cry, scream, fall apart. And when she finally looked up, eyes red, voice barely audible, she asked, "Are you happy now?" I crouched, looked her dead in the eyes, and said, "Not yet. But I'm getting there." Then I stood, turned, and walked out, every eye in the room on her, not me. Because now, everyone knew exactly who she really was. She moved out of town 3 weeks after the fallout. Not with a bang, not with a dramatic farewell, just quietly, like someone sneaking out of a funeral they caused, dragging the weight of everything she'd destroyed behind her. The job was the first to go. Her company didn't issue a public statement. But within days of receiving the anonymous package filled with her voice recordings, screenshots of her mocking coworkers, and proof of time theft through fake sick days, they placed her on indefinite unpaid leave. She posted one last passive-aggressive, "Goodbye isn't the end, just the start of something new" caption, then deleted all her accounts within hours. Most of her friends ghosted her without a word. A few messaged me privately, apologizing for ever believing the curated version of her they'd seen online. Her favorite yoga studio refunded her membership and asked her not to return. The mom group she created removed her completely, replacing her profile photo with a generic "user not found" icon. Her own sister stopped replying to her calls. Her father blocked her number. Her mother left a voicemail telling her not to come around, until she remembered how to be a human being. Even Natalie, her once ride-or-die friend, who used to parrot her every word, quietly cut ties and started liking my posts instead. Tyler vanished the moment the house of lies collapsed. No texts, no dramatic goodbye. Just gone. She emailed him twice. No response. She messaged from a burner account, blocked. She tried driving by his apartment. He'd moved. The last time I saw her, she looked like a ghost of someone I used to know. Her skin was pale, eyes sunken, shoulders hunched under the weight of irreversible shame. She was working at some discount outlet store in a strip mall an hour away, using her maiden name, barely speaking to anyone. I only knew because someone recognized her and sent me a photo. Her behind the counter, folding shirts, staring out the window like she was hoping to wake up from a nightmare she couldn't escape. She called once. From a new number. Left a voicemail. "I know I don't deserve anything, but I needed to say it. I still love you. You were the best thing in my life, and I ruined it. I know I'm a monster. I just want to hear your voice one last time." I never called back. Instead, I replied with a text. "Strange. I don't even remember your name anymore." Weeks later, she showed up at my house. I saw her through the window, standing at the door, clutching herself like the cold was inside her bones, hair wet, mascara streaked, shaking. I didn't open it. She knocked once, then twice, then leaned her forehead against the door and whispered, "Please." I stood on the other side, heart rate steady, not a trace of pain left in me. Not because I healed. Because she'd taken everything worth grieving the moment she chose another man's hands and thought mine would still be there waiting. After 5 minutes, she turned and walked away, looking back once. I didn't wave. I didn't blink. Just watched her disappear into the night like a chapter closing itself. And as I stood there in the silence she used to fill with lies, I finally felt something that had eluded me for months. Not anger, not sadness. Peace. She lost everything. Her job, her family, her reputation, her children's respect, her lover, her name. All for a thrill that lasted just long enough to bury her. And me? I didn't just survive. I evolved. So to the woman who thought she could cheat and smile her way through the fallout, I'll leave you with this final truth. I didn't destroy you. You did that all by yourself. I just made sure everyone saw it. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to know, where are you from, and did you enjoy it?